Time to check in with CoinDesk Global Policy and Regulation Managing Editor Nick Day, who's also the editor of CoinDesk's The State of Crypto newsletter. Hello there, Nick. So, an infrastructure bill has finally been signed by President Joe Biden, I hear, and has consequences for the crypto community.
Good morning. Yes, the bipartisan infrastructure bill that we talked about in August and we've been talking about ever since, that contains a crypto tax provision that seeks to broaden the definition of a broker and enact certain tax collection regulations, was finally signed into law yesterday. It was passed by the House of Representatives about a week and half, give or take, ago, after the Senate passed it in the middle of August. And now it's law. It's going to be implemented. The Treasury Department is going to presumably issue guidance or explain how they intend to define a broker for crypto tax collection purposes. And the industry is looking to try and modify or push back. We're seeing Senators Ron Wyden and Cynthia Lummis also introduce a bill to try and modify that provision. Remains to be seen how exactly this is implemented, but that's kind of the where we're at now. It's no longer a matter of if, but when.
So Nick, what's next? I know that the crypto lobby has not given up on trying to get this changed.
So we've seen some individuals in the crypto, lobbyist side, the think tank side, threaten litigation if they, see this, or if the definition becomes something that they see as untenable. Whether that actually happens remains to be seen. I think really what we have to do is wait for Treasury and see how exactly they define a broker, because if it is indeed just parties facilitating transactions on behalf of others versus miners and hardware developers, then maybe there's nothing. The industry's worries may be overblown. But if the definition does end up including these parties that can't report these tax details because they just don't have that information, then that's when I think the industry is really going to have to take a look at how they're approaching this.
Nick, I'm going to ask you a personal question, and I can understand if you don't want to answer it, but here goes. I'm going to reveal some personal information. This past, while you were away, you took a train trip across the country to Seattle, I believe. Do you want to talk about what happened and the insight that you got while going on this, what sounds like the trip of a lifetime?
Yeah, I took a train from New York to Seattle. I took 3 trains technically. It was a train to DC, a train to Chicago, and then a train to Seattle. And honestly, if you've never done that, I highly recommend it. It was a excellent time. It was really very peaceful. You're basically, you don't have a lot to do. There's not a lot of internet connection out there, so for basically 3 nights, you're just kind of looking at the stars and the landscape outside your window as you pass by. But it was very peaceful. Amtrak, I'm a huge Amtrak fan, and personally, and anyone who's seen my Twitter probably has seen me tweet about Amtrak frequently. It really was a great time. I cannot praise it enough. It was a great trip. Had a lot of fun.
Sounds awesome.
You learned about infrastructure that way.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of infrastructure.
The infrastructure side. Well, the infrastructure side is Amtrak needs its own tracks. There was one segment, frequently, but there was one segment where we were stopped outside of Elkhart, Indiana for an hour and a half because the railroads are owned by the freight trains, and they basically take priority on a lot of these trips. So people complain about Amtrak not being on time. It's because they don't own the rails that they're operating on outside of the Northeast Corridor. And you can really see that on the long distance trains because that's where all the freight trains are.